This game is called Code Names. Maybe you've played it or maybe you've seen it. The idea behind this game is that you give and receive clues, and you use those clues to solve the mystery of who different characters are in the story, in the game. And then ultimately you use those clues and get those characters to help you win the game. But the whole idea is that you crack the code. When we think about the book of Revelation, sometimes that's our attitude. We have to crack the code. There are all these symbols and these beasts and dragons and all these crazy things, and we need to crack the code and predict the future. That's not what Revelation is about. Yes, it is about some of the things that are going to happen in the future, but really that is just a lens through which to see our present day. And especially for those people to whom this letter, Revelation, was being written, they were struggling. They needed a word of hope and a word of assurance. And so Revelation isn't so much a code to be cracked as it is a message to be heard. What is that message? Well, that message is an important message that we need to hear today too. We look around us and we see this epic struggle that we are in, that the world is in, this struggle between good and evil. And we see sometimes that evil seems to be gaining ground, and that Satan seems to be maybe winning some of the battles. But the truth is, Revelation gives us a preview of the end of the story. And the message that we need to hear is that Jesus wins. Jesus is victorious. That Satan will not live forever. That evil will not reign on this earth. That Jesus will be victorious. That's an important message. It was an important message for these first century Christians throughout the 7 churches of Asia Minor. It's an important message for us. In Revelation chapter 1, we get a glimpse into who God is, who Jesus is also, who we are, and how we can live amid the turmoil and the trying times of our world. So much is going on in our world today. So much was going on in the world back in the first century with this original audience. Those Christians, like everyone else, were expected to pay homage to Caesar, but not just as a leader. They were to declare that Caesar is Lord. Can you imagine that kind of pressure? If they didn't do that, there were consequences. And so this time in history, the end of the first century, we see Christians undergoing persecution and isolation and mistreatment. And it's only going to get worse for them. And so they need this message of hope. They need this message of assurance to hang on, that Jesus does win the war. It may look like evil is gaining ground. It may look like Satan is winning the battles, but Jesus will win the war. So we must decide, are we going to be on his side or not? Are we going to be with Jesus? Are we going to declare Caesar is Lord and blend into our culture? Or are we going to declare Jesus is Lord and live as citizens of the kingdom of heaven? There are some implications, of course, of those decisions, just like there were for those first century Christians. There are some implications for us. But we see in the opening chapter of Revelation that that is the right choice, because Jesus and our Lord, God, will last forever. We see that he is the Alpha and the Omega. He was and is to come. You see, God is everlasting. He is eternal. All these things that we put our hope in this world, all these things that we pursue and that we try to gain for ourselves in this world, even some things that are really good things, they are temporary. They will not last. They weren't here from the beginning. They won't be here at the end. God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, which means he is complete. He is everlasting. And that's who I want to be with. Isn't that who you want to be with? When it's all said and done, Jesus is the one who will be standing. The question is, will we be standing with him? That's the choice we have to make. And yes, that choice means we will face some things in this life and in this world that aren't always pleasant. But that's what being a cross-carrying disciple of Christ sometimes means. It's going to be an interesting study. I would encourage you to spend some time looking at chapter 1 of Revelation. Again, it's not a code We aren't trying to break a code so we can predict the future. It's not a secretive code. It is a transformative message, a message that we all need to hear. Yes, there is a battle going on between good and evil, but ultimately Jesus wins. And you get to decide if you're going to be with Jesus or not.